Hey now everybody, this is Professor Island, and today we're talking about the grading and assessment for the online English 103 classes. When you go to eng103de and you find the lava lamp, you can find two English 103 classes in the distance education section. One of them is the winter and summer course, and the other one would be for fall and spring. The only difference between them is the calendar is different because of the length of the semester, but the grading policy is exactly the same, and you simply click on the class that you are in, and you will find the grading policy and assessment. You'll notice that there's a description of what things are, but basically if you scroll down to the middle here, you'll find a grid that gives you the 6 items that essentially make up the course. The first two main items are 2 papers. Paper 1 is going to be a short 5 to 8 page paper that is an analysis of a single lyric or poem applying at least 3 critical perspectives. The final paper is longer. It's 8 to 12 pages and will be an analysis of either a play or a fiction story or a group of poems or lyrics from the same author. And in any case, these are both research papers. That means you are not only quoting directly from the primary source or sources, the work or works you're analyzing directly, the poem or play or whatever, but also you are applying secondary source material, which is the research material that is either historical or biographical or contextual information that you've gotten from credible resources such as EBSCO and Gale Literature Resource Center and Rolling Stone and other college websites that involve disseminating information, and you're creating a research paper that includes direct quotation, application of specific critical perspectives, which is the point of the class, and of course a works cited page. Remember that each body paragraph is its own critical perspective, and each critical perspective is its own body paragraph. You are not demonstrating to me how similar the critical perspectives translate the work. Instead, you're explaining and demonstrating how differently the work gets translated from one critical perspective to the other. There's also a test. The test is worth 25% of your grade. The test is taken in the testing center and will usually be on a relatively short work. When I announce a test on Blackboard, you usually have a week or so to take it, and I give you a series of works to choose from. You choose one of those works, you do your research in advance, and you show up to the testing center with a blue book, a copy of the primary source printed out, a copy of your secondary sources printed out, and a pen, and then you sit down for 80 minutes and you crank out 5 paragraphs in which you apply 3 critical perspectives. These 3 items, the paper 1, the test, and the final paper, are the long-form bits that you do to demonstrate in this class that you understand how critical thinking works and how the research paper at a college level works. Remember that you're using credible resources. There's no Wikipedia. Don't use Schmoop or any of that stuff. By the way, Schmoop's not a real university, in case you didn't know. The deal is you need to use college level published material as your resource material. The other thing that comprises probably the largest number of things that you'll be doing would be the responses, and those are the last 7 items on Blackboard. These are actually posted on Blackboard, and essentially you do 5 of these for an A in participation, you do 3 for a B in participation, and if you get 2 of them done, you get a C in participation. And essentially, these are short. These are only 3 paragraphs. Introduction, body paragraph, conclusion. You're still quoting directly from both the primary and secondary source, but you're only applying 1 critical perspective, and these are your opportunity to get quick feedback from me as to whether or not you're on the right track in terms of formatting, in terms of application of your research, and in terms of application of the critical perspective itself. And that's why there's a response associated with paper 1, there's a response associated with the final paper, because this would give you an opportunity to take one of the body paragraphs from either the final paper or from paper 1 and use it as the body paragraph for a response, and I would be giving you feedback basically on how well that paper is coming along. So I encourage you to do the paper 1 response for sure, and the final paper 1 if you have any responses yet to do by the time we get to that point in the semester. The other item that requires research is going to be the message board discussion group. You'll notice that there are 3 discussion groups. There's a discussion group for poetry, there's one for drama, and there's one for fiction. You only join one group. You look at the assignment message that is in that folder, and you'll notice there's a series of topics. You choose one of those topics after reading what everybody else has already chosen, and you choose a topic that's left over, and you create a thread in that folder. And in doing so, you are going to title that thread the title of the topic that you've chosen, so that way everybody can see what has already been chosen, because there's only one person per topic, and there's only one topic per person. You then provide for me a 3-paragraph essay in which you research the topic that you've chosen, whether it's a biography of an author, some historical event or place, you might have even chosen a critical analysis of one of the works. But the idea is that you are essentially doing a little mini essay, and in some cases you're giving us background information so that someone reading that folder is going to understand the larger context of the topic or the work at hand. The message board discussion group response is not in the response section. It is directly under that. This is a folder directly underneath the message board discussion group that you've chosen, and essentially this is the one time you get to write a single paragraph from me. It is also the one time you get to incorporate your opinion, but you're not giving us your opinion about the other person who wrote an essay. You're going to be reading an essay from somebody who has posted in your discussion group, and you're going to respond to the topic that they have discussed by not only quoting from them, but also adding something from the primary source that might be under discussion, or from research that you did. And so you're incorporating quotation, and you can, talk about, this was a good thing or this was a bad thing, whatever, but you're not talking about whether they're a good writer or a bad writer. You're talking about the topic that they've chosen, and you're adding something to the conversation, adding some bit of understanding to broaden the conversation. These 6 items make up your grade, and essentially the paper gets sent to me at eng103de@earthlink.net. Both of them do, actually. The test gets taken at the testing center, and they collect it there. But the message board discussion group, the message board discussion group response, and of course all the individual work responses are all posted on Blackboard. And then you get feedback from me by email for everything. That's basically how it works. And if you have any questions, you can always send me an email at eng103de@earthlink.net. And until then, stay in touch.